Record.
Our outfits. Here are my shoes that aren't visible. Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Then timer. 3, 2, 1.
Take a look at this picture. If you close your left eye and stare at the cross with your right eye, and then slowly move your head towards and away from the screen, the black dot will slowly move in and out of your vision. This is an illusion, and it takes advantage of a blind spot in your visual perception. But how does that work, and what is visual perception? I'm Jessica C.
I'm Hadley Tran. And I'm Riley Tran. In order for us to understand how our eye is able to interpret what we see, it's important to understand our eye structure, what exactly is perception, how there are some gray areas like illusions, and understanding how perception can benefit the medical field and psychology field. So what exactly is our eye structure? It can be broken down into the three most fundamental parts: the eye shape, how we see, and the optic nerve's connection to the brain. Taking a look at this diagram, this is one of the most sensitive organs in the body. It helps us to assess what we are seeing. According to live science, light enters through the pupil and is dilated or focused on with the lens, and it hits the retina. The retina is a thin layer of nerves that connects to the optic nerve. The optic nerve then takes this information and relays it to the brain, and we see. But why is this significant?
When our brain picks up on an image, a lot of things have to come into play in order to allow someone's eyeballs the ability to perceive the image. According to the National Eyes Institute, the transparent layer closest to the front of the eye, the cornea, which is displayed on the picture, takes light in through the pupil. This light will then continue to pass through the lens of the eye and then the retina, which converts the light into signals through cells called photoreceptors.
So then, according to the Discovery Eye Foundation, these photoreceptors reach the optic nerve, which connects and transmits visual information from the eye to the brain. The optic nerve receives electrical signals / impulses from the photoreceptors of the retina. This visual information is then relayed to the visual cortex of the brain, then interprets this information into the objects we see. But how does our brain process these electrochemical signals that the optic nerve sends? Well, according to Daily Mail, the area these signals are sent to is called V1, and the neurons in this area process information with three significant principles. First, they take this information and combine edges that have similar orientations, increasing the robustness of perception to small changes in the position of curves that form the boundaries of an object. Secondly, if a neuron is activated by a particular edge, orientation, and position, then the orientation that is 90 degrees from that will be suppressive at the same location. This is called cross-orientation suppression. And what this does is helps us detect various visual shapes and is essential for accurate shape detection. The final principle that these neurons use is relevant patterns that are repeated in a space in ways that can help perceive textured surfaces of certain things and the boundaries between them, such as trees or waters, and the boundaries between the two.
These are the base foundations in order for us to understand how we perceive. And using this knowledge, we can go further in depth in perception and how it can benefit the medical field, as well as illusions.
The distinction between perception and illusion is important when we are learning about the ways in which we see images. Perception is, surprisingly, the act of perceiving things. No, it's the idea of sensing, detecting, identifying anything and everything that is around you. When you perceive something, it is real. It's usually something that exists and is there. Now, illusions are false perceptions. Illusions are things that your senses wrongly identify as something that they are not. Often, the mind will pick up on an image that is, in reality, not what it is actually meant to be seeing. Illusions can rely on a lot of factors, such as perspective, atmosphere, and a very common one is lighting.
According to Briticana.com, light is an electromagnetic radiation that can be detected by the human eye, and it is what the eye uses as information, as said earlier. However, the optic nerve causes a blind spot in the eye, which some illusions use to create their illusion. When light bounces off an image into the optic nerve, because there are no photoreceptors to receive that information from the light, that information, your brain will start making assumptions on what was supposed to be there because there was no information. This can be shown in the image here. In this image, there are 12 black dots, but as you look at the image, you'll notice that you can only see a few dots at a time. This is because of the consistent gray line pattern. Your brain assumes that the whole image is just a gray line pattern until it focuses specifically on a few dots, then missing all the other ones until you will look directly at them.
Now, there are three main types of optical illusions, according to cleareyes.com. Literal illusions, cognitive illusions, and physiological ones. Literal illusions are created when someone sees an image that isn't entirely real. This is because the image that they're seeing is made up of other real objects and images. A good example of this illusion is seen in a very common image, probably one that most, if not all of you have seen, this elephant, which appears to have a very confusing set of legs. Physiological illusions, on the other hand, rely a bit more on the stimulation of the mind. Typically, these kinds of illusions tend to use designs and colors that are meant to affect how the brain perceives it. An image that really demonstrates this illusion well is this one on the slide. As you move your eyes across the image, it should appear to be moving, even though I promise you is not. Cognitive illusions are, in a way, similar to literal illusions. While when looking at a literal illusion, the image that is created is usually unintentional, cognitive illusions appear to be cognitive illusions occur on purpose. Cognitive illusions are often meant to mess with the brain with the intent of confusing the image that you're looking at. This right here is a good example of a cognitive illusion.
We now know about the different kinds of illusions. Some of the illusions actually are used by doctors and professionals to diagnose eye diseases. For example, a tool used by eye doctors is the colorblind test. Typically, this has several colored dots, all arranged in different colors in an order to form a letter or a number. This is used to help diagnose eye, such as red and green color blindness. According to Iris Tech, there is such thing as a reverse colorblind test. This takes a series of colored dots, all with a specific shade that is undetectable with a healthy eye. However, someone with color blindness may be able to see this difference and actually see the number. Using this information, it's clear that illusions do have a purpose in the medical field, colorblind tests being one of the most common. It affects how we process what we see, and visual effects also help with the medical field.
The main difference between illusion and perception is the way that one's senses and mind determine whether or not an image or effect is real or not. The knowledge that perception is detection and illusion is false perception allows people who work in related fields such as psychology and ones focused on the mind and the eyes, it allows them to dive deeper into what it really means to see something.
So finally, how can eye perception and illusions link to psychology and possibly further advance the field of psychology? Well, first, let's define how illusions happen. Although there are different types of illusions, all illusions occur for one big reason. According to ABC News, Professor Mark Changzi says, our brain is faster than our eyes. When we are looking at something, our eye sees the object, which our brain organizes, but our brain goes about a 10th second faster than our eyes. When the brain attempts to interpret information our eye sends us, it takes a guess at the near future by trying to fast forward a 10th of a second. And because of this, there is a neural delay, meaning you might not be seeing an image as it actually is until you focus. ABC News also relays from Martinez Conde and says that the brain is a limited structure. It has limited resources, including its number of neurons, wires, and neuronal connections. Thus, in some cases, illusions may be due to the brain's need to take shortcuts. Simply put, the brain might need to take need to quickly take in information, skipping the illusion. But this could not be achieved without one's visual perception.
Perception is one of the most important components to any sort of illusion. For example, magic tricks require the eyes to be diverted into a specific area so the magician is able to pull off the trick without the audience noticing. Jessica is allowing a demonstration with a magic trick. Before analyzing how it's done, it's important to pay attention on the illusion itself.
So here I have a coin within this jar. And as you can see, the coin can't fall through. It's like, it's not falling through, right? There's nothing wrong with this cup. So we're gonna take this coin, we're gonna move it into this hand, and actually, just watch this very closely. The coin will, sorry, I moved the cup on accident. The coin
Okay.
actually will go right through the cup.
All the fun and games for magic tricks, illusions can contribute to their to the field of psychology. Excuse me. For example, according to frontierism.com, many children who experience magic tricks tend to believe in them due to several beliefs and fantasies, such as dragons. However, due to children not fully adapting to the social norms of listening to the audience, such as magicians saying, hey, look over here, children tend to figure out how magic tricks are actually done faster than an adult would. Illusions, however, are still beneficial to the medical field and those studying psychology.
In the field of psychology, illusions and tricks of the eyes are often used when psychologists are trying to associate a behavior with the way that people view things. It has been said that being able to see a certain image in an illusion may reveal a particular trait of the person viewing the illusion. Although it is not entirely predictable about a person's behavior or personality, it's not really reliable all of the time. One of the most well-known tests conducted by psychologists is the Rorschach ink blot test. It's an ink blot test. According to an article by verywellmind.com in 2021, the test consists of 10 ink blots that the psychologist asks the patient to interpret. What the person sees in the image may provide information about how this person perceives and interprets the world around them.
So illusions are caused by our brain needing to take shortcuts, but are only capable of one because of perception. An example of this can be magic tricks. Not only that, but perception and illusions can benefit the field of psychology with ink blots.
The perception of the eye is arguably one of the most fascinating topics to look into for those of you who are intrigued by the idea of seeing or creating something that isn't really there. The concept, or rather the art of illusion, is one that is still significant in studies of the eye and the mind. Today, we brought to you our knowledge on visual perception, optical illusions and their effects, and how all of it connects to the psychological field. Once again, we are Jessica, Hadley, and Riley, and we thank you sincerely for your time.